Welcome to part 2 of the Canucks offseason. This time we'll be looking at the forwards and what the plan is going into this season for the young players hoping to crack the roster. Going off the wake of Trevor Linden's departure and what was said by Jim Benning and Travis Green about their idea for the future of the Vancouver Canucks, they claim that their vision remains unchanged and that it is a vision of youth. If young players come in and show they are ready, space will be made for them and they will play. Both Benning and Green have said that they are on the same page, they know the team needs to get younger, and they are working towards a brighter future. So let's start with the roster, who the Canucks have competing for spots come training camp, save for any surprises. From the sounds of what Jim Benning has been saying, it seems like he's pretty content with his organization's makeup, and unless something irresistible comes along, don't look for too many things to happen on the trade front. They've been discussing the idea of having Brandon Sutter play in more of an offensive role now that Jay Beagle is signed, so don't look for the controversial center to be traded. Sam Gagner and Louis Eriksson have pretty much untradeable contracts at this point in my opinion, so I would be very shocked if they were moved before the season starts. Sven Baertschi just signed a 3-year deal, he's not going anywhere, and I also think Marcus Granlund has pretty much no trade value as well, coming off a pretty bad year. So these are the 16 forwards the Canucks will work with heading into camp that will require waivers to be sent down to Utica. In my mind, there's 10 guys from this list that will for sure be starting with the big club. Then you have Tanner Kero, Reed Boucher, and Darren Archibald, who will most definitely be assigned to Utica as there are better options to be had, and will most likely pass through waivers. And if they end up being claimed, it's not really the end of the world in the grand scheme of things. Brendan Gaunce could be included in that tier as well, but I'll single him out since I think out of those 4 players he has the highest chance of being claimed, but I believe he'll be sent down as well. This leaves the 2 younger players with offensive potential but are not yet established or consistent, Nikolay Goldobin and Brendan Leipsic. 2 who will likely be claimed off of waivers should they be placed there. They will be given every opportunity to show their worth in training camp and will need to put up or shut up. So now let's move on to waiver exempt players. 2 of them here are pretty much locks. Our very own Prince Charming for sure, and Elias Pettersson is almost assuredly going to play opening day unless Travis Green gives him the old Brock Besser scratch or is sent down to Utica due to a poor training camp / the numbers game. Tyler Mott will most likely be sent down to Utica, which really leaves Adam Gaudette and Jonathan Dahlen. Let's start with Dahlen. I think he's NHL ready, to be honest, even though he hasn't had much experience on North American ice. His skill set is something the Canucks dearly lack, as he's elite in and around the net and below the goal line, and I actually think his playstyle would really complement Brock Besser and Bo Horvat, but that's a video for another day. Anyway, unless Dahlen has an unbelievable camp and really forces management's hand, and I mean unbelievable as he doesn't require waivers, if he only has, say, a good camp, I still think he'll be sent down to Utica just because of the numbers game. That's in no way a bad thing, though. He still has a lot to learn down at that level. That leaves us with Adam Gaudette, who I really believe is NHL ready based off the 5 games I saw of him at the end of last year. Green is high on him, and so am I. I've said this before, but the way he pays attention to details in his own zone is already at a pro level, and he has the speed to keep up. The offense will start to come very soon for him, and it's a little unfortunate that there's not a lot of space for him to start the year on the Canucks. I think he's ready for NHL minutes, and being exposed to that as soon as possible will be great for his development, but then again, there is the silver lining that he'll most likely be playing top 6 minutes down in Utica with special teams, so he'll definitely be a fun player to keep tabs on this year. So now let's try and see what the plan is for the forwards. Training camp will be paramount as multiple young players will be fighting for the same few spots in the lineup. Let's pencil in our 12 guys that in my mind seem like locks, and then we'll assess from there. Travis Green has shown in the past that he won't play young players unless they are locked in 100%. Vertanen knows this all too well, and we could see this even happen to Elias Pettersson to start. Time will tell if this philosophy changes this year, but I digress. Speaking of EP, I think Green starts him on the wing with Sutter. It just makes so much sense knowing Green's tendencies. We've heard that with the acquisition of Beagle, the Canucks are hoping to use Sutter in more of an offensive role, so this is almost a gimme. Moving on to the rest of the roster, in many ways, Green is an old school guy as he likes his bottom 6 to be more traditional checking lines and then have the top 6 to be offensively minded. This seems to also be the line of thinking for management as well, indicated by the 3 free agent signings. It allows the Canucks to run 2 veteran checking lines to provide insulation for the young, skilled players to have favorable offensive opportunities. That 4th line in particular, I think, could be a very nice forechecking line with good play-driving capabilities. Obviously, these lines aren't set in stone, and this is when the plan will be set into motion. Like I said, training camp will be crucial for many players fighting for a few spots. Benning has stated that this is what he wants, competition. Going out and signing Beagle, Schaller, and Roussel is, in his mind, a reflection of that. Goldobin, Leipsic, and Dahlen will be fighting for the first and second line left wing spot, and Adam Gaudet will be fighting for the fourth line spot with Tim Shaler. Let's take a look at that top 6 left wing spot. Management is playing their hand with the 2 waiver eligible guys in Leipsic and Goldobin. They're signifying that if they don't show up to camp in the best hockey shape of their lives, ready to make a significant impact on the top 6, the Canucks are prepared to move on without them. If they are unable to play up to Green standards with and away from the puck, unable to prove that they are better options than guys like Sam Gagner or Marcus Granlund, or if a guy like Dahlen outplays them, the Canucks will look to move on from them via trade, or worst case scenario, place them on waivers and risk losing an asset for nothing. Leipsic is 24 and Goldobin will be 23 come October. Both have been point-per-game AHL players and have potential to do damage in the top 6, with Leipsic having more utility in a middle 6 role, whereas Goldie is sort of more of a boomer bust in the top 6. But both are getting old enough now to be at the point where they need to start showing that they have what it takes to become NHL regulars. Now, with that being said, we can go through some scenarios to see what management may face with the decisions they have made. The first being all 4 players have an amazing camp, or everyone but Gaudette does. This is the most unlikely of the scenarios, but let's say it happens. What could the Canucks do? Honestly, in my mind, there's no clear way for all 4 of them to make the team. Let's eliminate the 3 free agents. They aren't going anywhere, as that would look very bad. That leaves Sam Gagner, Marcus Granlund, and Louis Eriksson as players with targets on them. Green has said to his veterans that whatever it takes over the offseason, they need to get faster, as that's the direction of the game, and these 3 provide the least of it. It would be a disaster if Eriksson was sent down optics-wise, so let's say he stays. He is the best two-way forward of the 3, and he starts as the 13th forward. The Canucks maybe send down Gagner and Granlund if they can't find a trading partner for them, which is likely the case. The Canucks could then put Goldie and Leipsic on the 2nd and 3rd line respectively. Then maybe you move Pettersson to the middle and have Dahlen on his other wing. Sutter comes down to the 3rd with Leipsic and move Virtanen up, and you have a 4th line of Roussel, Beagle, and Gaudet. Schaller and Eriksson as 13th and 14th forwards. Again, I just can't see this happening, but that could be how they fit all 4. Or maybe Virtanen is scratched again. Please no. Gaudet has a very high chance of being sent down just based on numbers, simple as that. The next scenario could be Dahlen and one of Goldie or Leipsic make the team. While I also think this is unlikely, I wouldn't be shocked if Dahlen had an amazing camp and recreates the chemistry he had with Pettersson in Timrå. Realistically, if this were the case, Leipsic probably takes the other spot as he is better suited to play on the 3rd or 4th line than Goldobin. If Goldie takes Berchi's spot on the top line, then maybe you stick Berchi on the 3rd. Regardless, 2 players need to come out of the lineup, and again, the 3 most likely candidates are Gagner and Granlund and Virtanen. The Canucks could run 13 forwards and send Gagner down to the minors and have Granlund as the 13th, which would be nice to allow them to have 8 defenders, but they could also keep both up and run 14. The 3rd scenario is both Goldie and Leipsic make the team. Same logic as the previous, with Goldie and Leipsic inserted anywhere in the top 9. I'll reiterate that if 2 players were to make it, that would leave the Canucks with 14 forwards bearing any trades or waivers. In the next video, I'll go over the pros and cons of having 13 or 14 since it will heavily impact the Canucks on defense. And lastly, as the scenario that I'm sure no one really wants to see, none of them make the team and only one stays on as the 13th forward. To me, this is the most likely of the options, and I'm not trying to be negative. I just think these players, Goldie and Leipsic specifically, will need to have very strong showings to prove to Green that they should be here to take a spot from a veteran. Green is all about commitment to being a professional, and it takes a while for players to earn that respect. They both clearly have some work to do in Green's book, and it may take a lot for Green to move on from Gagner and Granlund, who seem to be 2 of Green's favorites. I don't need to tell you the optics of how bad it would look and how the fan base would react if either Goldie or Leipsic went on waivers. On the one hand, if they weren't able to make the Canucks, you could say, hey, they probably shouldn't be in the NHL. But on the other hand, the Canucks seem to want to pigeonhole themselves into creating a top 6, bottom 6 team, which really blocks tweeners like Leipsic and Goldie from finding a home. They are most likely good enough to be given 3rd, 4th line minutes on teams that want to roll 4 lines of skill, but that just isn't the Canucks' MO, and I think that is where a lot of the frustration comes from with the fan base. So that's how I see it. Those are my opinions. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did by leaving a like, as it really helps me out knowing if I'm doing stuff right or wrong. And if you're new to the channel, please consider hitting subscribe and joining us on this Canucks journey. And with that, stay calm, keep your head on a swivel, and have a great day, guys.